Right. Hey, お願いします。Hey, down and hit side to side. Your shoulders. Circles one way. Circles the other way. So, hey, arms going forward. Arms going back. Come in. Hey, you come in. Eight waves. Hey, side to side. That's lucky. Hand tight. Hey, real hook. Benji. Yoko.いき、こ、き、こ、3、9、こ、い、open and forward, down, eight, your knees for the back, so that goes for weight, and the other way. Down sideways. Front, back, front, back, front, back. Bring your toes down, up, down, up, down. Breathing in, out, in, out, in, out. Feet and your legs. Then lower your hips. Forward, back, forward, back, forward, back. Looking up on one side, looking up on the other side. Hands inside, hands outside, and hips up. Spine up, shoulders here, and circles. Now it's time, AEST. Down, lay down, and open up into Cossack. 1, so 2, 4, 3, 4, 5. Change side. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So, bring your legs side to side. So, the legs, elbows down. And going forward, back, forward, back, forward, hips up, hips down, hips up, hips down, hips up, hips down, and back. Okay, one side and the other side. One side, the other side, one side, and the other side. Side, side. All right, so this week we've been focusing on our legs and how our lower body reflects the type of positions and shapes and structures that Bruno Sensei wants us to practice and work with. So we basically we went through 3, maybe 4 basic leg positions that are very important to observe. If you watch any of Sensei's videos or attend any of his seminars, be able to study these positions, their implications, their importance, and things like that. So to start with, I think this first one is a little bit of a Funnily, yesterday in training, I say I hadn't paid enough attention to it during the week because I thought it was quite ubiquitous. As in, I assume most people do it, or most Aikido schools have an idea of it, which is the idea of jigotai, the idea of having your hips low and lowering your center of gravity. This idea of jigotai is so present in martial arts mindset. That's why the classic horse stance. That people practice with strikes and things like that. That I say, well, most people do that, but sadly, these days you see many schools where maybe it's understood as a concept or as an important idea, but sometimes it's not practiced at all. It's just everything is too high, really too high on your hips. So remember that jigotai, is the using lowering of your body. Okay, be able to use your glutes, your legs to connect properly with your body. Sometimes people divide stances into, well, we have one thing called jigotai, and they want one thing called hanmi. We have one thing called jigotai, and then one thing called hanmi. And yeah, well, you can study those two positions by themselves. Morrison says very adamant that both of them come together. So basically, jigotai and hanmi. So you lower your hips and then you present your hanmi position. So every time that you practice, we need to be very careful and observant that we are never 100% up in our hips. But we're presenting, we are already lowering our hips as participation of our hanmi. So whenever you finish your pana, for a katadori or a katadori, a shomenuchi, make sure to lower your hips, present your hanmi, and then move forward. So that's why one element of sensei's hanmi is the distribution of weight, mostly on the front foot and less on the back foot. Sometimes he calls it 70-30 type of thing. But that is because there is a lower of the hips and a presentation of hanmi. Okay, so please remember every time, katadori, orotodori, etc., whatever it is, lower your hips and then your hand. I always tell people that I normally notice if a person that is more or less my height, I was joking with a teenager the other day that is more or less my height, that if they don't lower their hips, because I normally know who is more or less my height, So as soon as I see myself much lower than them, I say, yo, you're not lowering your hip because now I'm much shorter than you, and I'm not really that much shorter than you. So, it's very important to always keep that stuff. So that first position maybe links very quickly to one of the main structures that Sensei has, just in its extension, which is a very strong base. Okay, which is your back leg, mostly extended, and your weight, your weight forward. And we saw different applications of this position in training the other day. So let's just do a couple. For example, the person comes with shomenuchi. The job is to put it there first, okay, control the shomenuchi, and then provide the structure for iki. Okay, so my first action is to lower my hips, enter, have a strong base, and provide structure for iki. Okay, one more time, enter, control, good strong base, and iki. I enter, control, good strong base, and iki. Enter, strong base, Ikkyo, enter, strong base, Ikkyo. Yeah. Again, enter, strong base, Ikkyo. Inside, enter, strong base. So, well, it is true that if your timing is absolutely perfect in terms of your entry, when your partner is doing the shomenuchi, if you completely perfectly harmonize with the shomenuchi, you are not receiving the shomenuchi in any downward, when the shomenuchi is coming downwards at all, but when it's coming up. So it's weightless in that sense, If you are able to ever capture an attack in its loading phase, the attack is going to be weightless, Here, boom, there is no weight in the shomenuchi, you move with it. But if the attack is already in the unloading phase, it's going to have some weight. Okay, the bigger the person you're training with, and the heavier the person, the more weight it will have. So unless we're perfect every single time in our timing, which it's funny, that's something that people want to study. A good structure, provides like a good insurance policy almost in a sense, if you carry a little bit of weight in that action. So it's very important to know. It's a little bit like when people goes shomenuchi, and certain people do irimi by just moving their body without using their hands. Right? Sometimes people do shomenuchi, and then another person will full just irimi without using their hands. Yeah, true. I mean, in a sense, what is protecting you is not the block, and then in emotion is the irimi entry. But if you enter without without your hands, there's an enormous risk that you're a little bit late or a little bit behind, and then that's something which is just going to land on the head big time. So that's why you enter, protect with your hands, but mostly focus in the irimi form. So the same thing with your shapes here. Sure, you enter hopefully at a good timing, but you also have your base and structure to help you in the process. Okay. Now another exercise with that strong base would be shihonage. So let's think ura. So futatedori, lower your hips at the enter. All the tenkan, pivot, step, cut, and control. And keep cut and control all the way down to the floor with the very strong base at the end. So enter, lower your hips, all the tenkan, pivot, step, cut, and control. Fists on the ground, arms together with your foot, and a big strong position at the end. So then looking in, step and control, and big bends at the end. So then step in, and fist down and strong. Okay, done. So then look, step in and control, and step in. Once again, good and strong first. Okay. So then step and down and base. More time. Then there. Pivot and strong first. So then pivot. Strong. Okay, so it's very important to have that strong base. Another moment when the strong bases are required is many times in the standing oshimai, in the standing pins. Let's say you finish nikyo, control nikyo, and then you apply, the finishing. The pin on your partner. Same thing. Sometimes we finish the partner, we control them, and then we have weird legs position, and then we start to kind of try to crank their arms in that way. No, whenever we have a pin, you control the person down, you establish a good solid base, and now you travel your weight forward, and every inch that you are pushing to your back leg into your partner's shoulder or something like that, it will just basically reflect into the pin, into the tapping. So one way to kind of visualize a little bit that, okay, is if you put your jaw, you put it down, put it next to your foot, where you practice your pin, your partner's shoulder. Your foot should be right next to your partner's shoulder, or just in front of your partner's shoulder. So let's put it on one foot on the side, and now make a strong base here, and then you travel forward and send that shoulder and that arm forward. Come back again. Okay, you travel forward and send, once again, all of that extension, the leg forward. You travel forward, and then you apply the oshima. Change to the side. Boom. You travel forward and send the shoulder forward. Again, traveling, sending shoulder. Back again, travel, sending shoulder. One more time, travel, sending shoulder. Yeah? So it's very important again, you finish with your, let's say you look here, you do nikyo. You control, boom, you control here, pull your foot, and then travel with your weight. Sometimes in Sankyo or in some Kotegaeshi, some techniques, we even, especially with sensei's technique, we are not next to the elbow or the shoulder, but as you know, we step over the head, for example, so my partner is right in the middle of my body. So same thing here, you grab your partner's arm, and then you travel with your body, okay? So now the jaw, because the shoulder and your partner is in the middle of your legs, okay? Stepping forward and traveling. Inside, partner is in the middle of your legs, your leg is in front of her or him, and traveling forward. That side, partner in the middle of the legs, and in front, and traveling forward. Okay, but again, all this weight transfer is basically your motion, from your back leg into the front of your body, from your back leg into the front of your body. The more comfortable we are with that, the better. All right, let's keep the jaw now that you have it in your hand. So lowering hips and hanmi are part of the same structure. With a strong base at the entry or at the finishing of our techniques, wherever they are, is very important structure. The next one will be the use of Yoko Kuriashi instead of only Mawari Ashi. Okay? Again, it's not that Mawari Ashi is bad or wrong. It's just that they have different uses. It's like two different screwdriver heads. Okay, so Mawari Ashi, or the action of turning, changes direction of a person. Yoko Kuriashi breaks balance of a person. Okay, so those are two different functions. Changing direction, breaking balance. They're not the same thing. Okay, so sensei puts a lot of emphasis on Yoko Kuriashi. So in order to practice that, grab your jaw, put one hand in front of your center of gravity, lower your hips, and moving Yoko Kuriashi. One side, the other side, in front of you, Yoko Kuriashi. Again, lower in front of you, Yoko Kuriashi. Again, lower in front of you, Yoko Kuriashi. Okay. Maybe because I did years of basketball, that this motion kind of is quite familiar to me in terms of the basic way I think each basketball player is endlessly told to defend, to do defense, as opposed to, running one side and then running the other side. But we do a lot of times bouncing, ups and downs of the court. It was we will call Yoko Kuriashi in this exercise. So remember, one of the most difficult things about the whole exercise is, first of all, that we will confuse turning with sliding out. So we need to be patient and be able to observe that. So for example, if we enter into Ikkyo-ura, we lower our hips, and again, the temptation will be to turn in that moment. In our case, we lower our hips and we slide. So Ikkyo-ura, enter, lower the hips and slide. Enter, lower the hips and slide. Enter, lower the hips, slide. Enter, lower the hips and slide. So now let's see if we can combine the two previous, the three previous exercises of the legs in this exercise of Ikkyo. So first of all, you face your partner with Hanmi and Jigotai together. Then you enter and control your partner's elbow with a strong base. You control the partners down, and then you move in Yoko Kuriashi. Okay, you begin with Hanmi and Jigotai. You enter with a controlled base. You lower your hips, and you move in Yoko Kuriashi. Enter, base, lower, Yoko Kuriashi. Hanmi, Jigotai. Enter, base, lower, Yoko Kuriashi. Couple more. Hanmi, Jigotai. Base, lower hips, Yoko Kuriashi. Hanmi, base, enter, base, hips, Yoko Kuriashi. Okay. So that would be another very important exercise, and then we have to notice it in several occasions. Iriminage, when we use it, the Soto form always has Yoko Kuriashi. Kotegaeshi, sometimes, sometimes, sometimes Sensei emphasizes a very strong Usushi with a very strong Yoko Kuriashi for Kotegaeshi. And sometimes because of the shape of Kotegaeshi, he emphasized a bit of the speed of it. And the speed means that the turning direction is sometimes enough to attack the dead angle of the uke in order to do Kotegaeshi. So once again, it's very important to observe that. The last action that is very classical, or one of them say, is the big step. Okay, the big step. Okay, so the fact that his projections are not very low to the ground, where he uses his body and it's a really big step to draw all his weight forward. This is the type of things that Sensei does that when he says it's violent, because there's no way of pulling back. If you are close to the foot, you're close to the ground, you can always pull back a little bit, but sometimes he gives all his body. Yeah, and by the time you're in this position, that's it. You're not coming back. You're basically using your entire body. So, big step. You can keep your jaw on the hands and stepping in for, let's say, iriminage or kokinage. Hey, each, knee, and chi, go, rock, switch, hatch, glue, you. If you are going to Sensei seminar, you notice that sometimes when he goes, after his punakogi, which again reflects many of these things, lower hips, strong base, etc., his furutama, he also does it slightly different from some people. He does a very strong furutama, and in some cases, he raises one leg and puts it down. He raises the other leg, puts it down. Like a little version of what sometimes sumo people do really big, which is shikofumi, which is the really big, sumo shikofumi kind of exercise, which is beautiful to watch because these big sumo wrestlers do this really big movement in a very balanced and controlled way. So Sensei does a little version of that a little bit in, Furutama, where the center of gravity is still aware or still connected with it. Okay, so we're not falling. Okay, but the leg raises for a moment. So that sensation is the same sensation that happens with this kind of step. The center of gravity is still very much present and very aware. Okay, the step is always happening. So let's do a few more. Okay, each knee, back, ship, go, rock, switch, hatch, new, new. Okay, so if we can do some or as many of these things, Anmi integrated with Jigotai, a good strong base, especially at the beginning and at the end of our program, our exercises, well understood and managed Yoko Kuriashis and big steps, giving everything in all our projections. I think Sensei would say that we are trying to do the type of motions and Aikido that he is trying to teach us. So that's the importance of our legs being trained. Okay, let's finish up. Great. Hey, arigato gozaimashita. Thank you.